Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for coming on what has to be the worst weather day of the 2008 season, well, the end of 2008 season so far. My name is Roberta Schaefer, and I'm the President and CEO of the Research Bureau. Today's program is part of the Bureau's Francis A. Harrington Forums, and we want to express our gratitude to the Hilton Garden Inn, Worcester, for hosting today's program, and it's always a great pleasure to have an event at this lovely facility. And here to greet us from the hotel is the owner, Paul Picknelly.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Hilton Garden Inn. We're just celebrating our second anniversary. We're happy to be in Worcester, and we're happy to host this forum this morning. It's nice to know all you brave souls weathered the storm last night. I chickened out, unfortunately. I spent the night here at the hotel. They gave me a good rate, actually, so I decided it was much easier to spend the night. As I said, we've been here for the last 2 years. Our investment in Worcester was a wonderful opportunity for us, and we couldn't be more pleased to be part of downtown Worcester. So I thank you for inviting us, and we'll share some thoughts about our development later on in the program. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you so much. We would also like to thank Andy Davis, the president of Davis Advertising, for providing the financial support for today's forum. The Research Bureau also wishes to express its appreciation to Bank of America for providing support for this series, the Telegram and Gazette for advertising it, and the City of Worcester Government Channel under the direction of Judy Warren for videotaping it. This event will be rebroadcast on Worcester's Government Channel 12, as well as in many of the local government channels in the region. So be sure to check your local listing. We also would like to invite you to visit the Research Bureau's website, www.wrrb.org. You can read and download all our reports and announcements of events and so on. And you can be notified of new postings if you give us your email. So just sign up and you will be on our email distribution list. And you can also join the conversation at our new blog on our website. Now, the Research Bureau organized today's program in tandem with the report released yesterday by the same name to focus attention on what has been accomplished downtown during the past decade, what are some of the projects that are on the drawing board, and what are some of the challenges to realizing those plans. Today, we are releasing a summary of the findings of our survey of downtown entitled Worcester's Curb Appeal. Now, this project documents the exact location of specific problems downtown, such as broken windows, crumbling facades, broken sidewalks, and the responsible party or parties for addressing them. We hope this information will be used to enhance downtown Worcester's curb appeal. Copies of both of these reports are available at the information table, and also please log on to our website. They are available. And we'd really like to hear your comments. It's now my pleasure to introduce someone who needs no introduction. David Forsberg is the moderator of today's program. David has been President and Chief Executive Officer of the Worcester Business Development Corporation since 1999. And the WBDC has been a real innovative and leading force in economic development in central Massachusetts. Prior to being appointed to the WBDC, David was Chief Development Officer for Massport, Chief Development Officer for the City of Worcester, and Secretary of the Executive Office of Health and Human Services for the Commonwealth under then Governor William Weld. From 1989 to 90, David served as the New England Regional Administrator for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development during the Bush 41 administration. And last, but certainly not least, David is a member of the Research Bureau's Executive Committee. David?
Thanks, Roberta. I always get a little nervous when people tick off items from my CV like that because it could leave an unfriendly audience with the impression that I can't keep a job. However, I know this is a friendly audience and a hearty audience and a terrific panel. I think there's great symbolism in this morning's gathering because the staff tells me that it's the largest response that they have ever received to a Research Bureau forum. I think that that says a lot about the interest that's out there in downtown. But also, we will note, because of the weather, it's a rather small gathering, and I'm sure the panelists will agree that working downtown and revitalizing downtown is for the hardy and for the persistent. So I think the audience befits the assignment here. Like many of you this morning, I woke up without power, so I shaved to a flickering Christmas candle, and I did look in the mirror, so I think I'm together enough to function as your moderator this morning. I want to say this very sincerely. It is a real privilege to serve as the moderator for a panel that you have a great deal of respect for. In fact, I would go so far as to say that a couple of the gentlemen who you're going to hear from this morning are heroes of mine. A couple of them aren't quite old enough yet to be heroes, but I have to say that to have four people who are this committed to downtown and willing to come here and share their perspective about what we've gone through, what we're dealing with, and what the great upside potential is for downtown Worcester. It is a very, very good thing for this morning's forum. We're going to begin with one of the youngest panelists, although I will introduce him as a survivor, because Brian Carroll, who is the president and CEO of Carroll Enterprises, Inc., probably known better to you, some of you, as the Small Business Service Bureau and the Small Business Insurance Agency, has been, together with his father Frank, a major player in the downtown area. They have probably made collectively one of the greatest commitments to the downtown area. They have been for many years the anchor of the south end of the Central Business District, investing millions of dollars in their properties, in really staking a claim and exercising their belief in the city of Worcester for now over 40 years. Their business is located there. The presidential and vice presidential museums are located there. Brian is also active in a number of community activities, particularly the UMass Memorial Hospital Newborn Intensive Care Unit. I'm grateful for that because my baby, the 32-year-old, spent some time there a long time ago. He's a graduate of Boston College and has a degree from the Wharton School of Business. Brian Carroll.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Roberta, for the invitation. It's very nice of you. My thoughts are with everybody who had some trees in their backyard, myself included, but we were able to jump over a few of them and make our way here. I guess, who says living and working in downtown Worcester isn't safe? I mean, this is probably the safest place today, so thank you very much for having us. Let me just dispel a few myths. I'm the delegate on the table from the Federal Square area, which is where the Hanover Theater is, the courthouse, our property, as well as a few other smaller businesses that anchor the Federal Square district. So as the delegate, let me dispel a few myths about downtown Worcester. I haven't lost any employees because I work in downtown Worcester. I haven't lost any employees who come up to me and said, we don't want to work here, we don't like downtown Worcester, or I haven't lost too many people from a job interview because they've said, I don't want to work in downtown Worcester. Maybe my dress code's a little too tough, but that's what we might lose them for that, but we don't necessarily lose them because of downtown Worcester. And that says something. That's a common myth. People do work in downtown Worcester, and when they work here, they do stay here. We think that's a competitive advantage, if anything, because we're able to attract different workers who like to take the bus to work, who don't necessarily like to drive. I think about a third of our workforce actually does take the bus, and they're terrific workers who have been with me for tens of years. This is not just a person who works there for 2 or 3 years. It's because of our location, we've been able to retain workers for easily 10, 12, 14 years because of the fact our location. Let me dispel another myth. Parking around the city is not a problem. In fact, it's actually an advantage that some of the parking garages are owned by the city, because you can make a deal. You can actually deal with the city. You can work with the officials to say, how do I get affordable parking for my employees if we stick it out and stay in downtown Worcester? So parking can be affordable. The diversity is a common myth. People think it's boring in downtown Worcester. Actually, the opposite. The diversity is a lot better than Office Park. I find that office parks that I visit, because when I visit people who are in business, office parks are stale, kind of boring. The diversity of downtown Worcester, and believe me, there is diversity down here, can in fact make it a much more interesting place to work. Another myth is you might have too much turnover, the people who live and work in your area. On the contrary, the people who work in our area, the other business owners and the other properties have been there for many, many years. Turnover is low, and you do get a chance to meet good neighbors, and you do, in fact, work together and share things together, whether it's common problems on a flooded street, or whether it's something as simple as sharing equipment because somebody has to fix something. Our neighbors are the Cathedral, the Hanover Theater, the courthouse, and we all know each other, and it's a great place to share things when someone's in a jam. Another thing, a myth is, well, Worcester's Worcester and Main Street's Main Street. How is that recognized across the other parts of the country? Actually, it works for us. Having an address on Main Street is a lot more important to us than having an address on some street that nobody's ever heard of. We do business in many states outside of Massachusetts, and when we tell people who work in Missouri or Illinois or New York City that we're located on Main Street, Worcester, and been there since 1967, people sit back and go, oh, okay, good. Well, you must be a good, stable, strong business. And we've had many opportunities because of that, because of our Main Street address, and because we've been located there for many years. So Main Street as an address does work. I can assure you that. I can easily point to people who never would have done business with us, or might have taken a longer time to do business with us if we didn't have that type of a Main Street address. So it does work. So in closing, things that have to be, I guess, issues that we have to be concerned about with downtown, and many of them are in that report, and I briefed it this last night and this morning. It's really spot on. Without addressing it too much, there are issues with foot traffic. We'd like to see more foot traffic. We'd like to see more consistency between the day traffic and the night traffic. There are different populations that come out during the day and different populations that come out at night. We'd like to see more of a consistency, more of a blending of the type of foot traffic between the day and the night. I think the biggest issue that I can kind of bring to the attention of all of you that want to affect change, I'll be totally frank with you. You can't marry these old buildings. You can't. You know, there are some sentiments of, oh, this such building's been here since 1902, or our building itself was 1874. Sometimes old buildings are not going to attract some of the outside investors it takes to make downtown Worcester a different place. So as just a general statement, of amount of money that we put into our old building requires a lot of affection and TLC that I don't know if outside investors are willing to do. So I think the point that I like to make is you can't marry these old buildings. Some of them may just have to come down. Hopefully you can save the facades, but many of them are vacant. Many of them are not going to attract the outside investors unless there is some change and we look at some things brand new. And then the final point is downtown success is linked, in my humble opinion, to the success of the neighborhoods that touch downtown. Whether it's Kelly Square, whether it's the end of Shrewsbury Street or on Columbus Circle, whether it's Green Street, whether it's Lincoln Square, All of these neighborhoods, the success of these areas definitely affects the success of downtown. We see it. We see the blending of that foot traffic from some of those neighborhoods as they make their way back and forth between downtown. So it's very, very important that the success of these adjoining and touching neighborhoods maintain its momentum, and the investors that come in to help Green Street, to help Kelly Square, bring it all in. The more you bring in these touching neighborhoods, it does affect downtown. So that's all I have to say on that. I know we have some great things to hear from the other people on the panel, and I'll be available with some questions when we're done. Thank you.
Just a couple of follow-up comments. One thing I neglected in Brian's CV is that he's an accomplished marathoner. And I think that that's a good skill set to have when you're talking about downtown, because revitalization is not a sprint. It is a marathon, and the Carroll family is proof positive that you can run at this for a long time with some very, very good results. And then this, a lot of people have been thanked for the Hanover Theater, and it was a great team effort and a partnership. But I want to say to Brian, and I hope he will send this back to the entire family, that without Carroll Enterprises, there would not be a Hanover Theater, because they created the foundation in the Federal Square area that made that theater possible. So thanks for your comments, Brian. We appreciate it. I have a very sophisticated theory about downtowns and their importance. I call it donut theory. Cities and regions do not work if they're a donut and there's a hole in the middle. They also don't work if you're a munchkin, and I agree with Brian. You need the areas around it, but the core area of the city is critical to the health of the city at large and to the region. And our next two speakers have played a major role in making sure that that core gets filled with some pretty exciting things. President Charles Monahan of the Mass College of Pharmacy and Health Services, one of my heroes because he did something very special. After 35 years as a practicing pharmacist and very successful businessman, he moved from being the chairman of the board of Mass College of Pharmacy to be named president of that organization, and made what I think is probably the most important decision that has happened in Worcester, perhaps since the medical school was located in Worcester. That was his very strategic and important decision to establish the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Science campus in downtown Worcester. It has made a tremendous impact on the downtown area, and having young people in white coats walking the streets of downtown is certainly a very, very important new dimension of our downtown. Under President Monahan's leadership, Mass College of Pharmacy has flourished. They have completed a $1 million expansion of their Boston campus. They have spent over $50 million creating the aforementioned campus in downtown Worcester. They've acquired the prestigious Forsyth School of Dental Hygiene and have now created their third campus in Manchester, New Hampshire. Charles Monahan is an accomplished academic. He is, for an academic, the most entrepreneurial, decisive person that I've met. He's a fundraiser par excellence, and he's our next speaker, President Monahan.
Thank you, David. Roberta, I think most of the folks here know all about us. You usually meet up in the glass tower in our school. But just to refresh you, in 1990, Mass College of Pharmacy, 2 days, December 8th was our 185th anniversary in Boston. And we are the oldest college or university in the city of Boston. Harvard is in Cambridge, their corporate offices, so we have that distinction. 11 years ago, when I became president of the college, we had 1,400 students in Boston. Today we have 3,000. We had 190 faculty and staff, and today we have over 350 in Boston. So in Boston, we only have 2 acres of land, and we have 530,000 square feet of academic space on this 2 acres of land. And it's right on Longwood Avenue, the high-rent district. We have Harvard Medical, Harvard School of Public Health, Brigham, all these prestigious institutions there. So we're bulging at the seams. So we were looking for a second location, and we had a small satellite campus out in Springfield and Worcester, on the campus of Western New England College, where they went the first 2 years of liberal arts and first professional years, which we taught, and then they came to Boston and graduate. So looking to expand, we couldn't expand in Springfield because they don't have the clinical sites that Worcester has. Out there's Bay State Medical and a few hospitals and a few health centers, but we need many clinical sites for our students. Right now, a pharmacy student, it's a 6-year program, 2 years of liberal arts, 4 professional years, but the last year, they're not in school. They're out doing 6 10-week clinical rotations. So we need the sites, and Worcester was the perfect place for us because of UMass Memorial System with their 8 locations right across the street from a $300 million St. Vincent's Hospital, the 24 Fallon Clinics, Family Health and Social Service, Great Brook Valley. So all our students practice in these sites. And even these sites aren't enough, and many of them go back to their home state, and we have approved the sites there, and we're even down in Rhode Island with these sites. So the clinical sites are very important. We've been very successful in Worcester. We purchased these 2 buildings, as most of you know, and the first building on the right is just a school of pharmacy. And we opened that building. We were very successful. Today we have 450 pharmacy students in the building. Financially, it's a success. The city of Worcester really greeted us with open arms. We raised for that building $9.2 million, and that money would not have come to Boston. Henrietta De Benedictis, who was a Boston alumni, gave us $2 million and named the building, but industry like CVS and others and the Worcester Foundations and many philanthropic folks in Worcester donated to that school, and so we were very successful, and it got the ball rolling. Worcester Business Development Corporation gave us a grant, and Mass Development gave us a grant. So Worcester opened us with open arms, and this made the trustees really excited about Worcester. And to date, the trustees have put $54 million into our campus. And so today we have about 100 jobs. We have a total of 600 students. We now have nursing and physician assistants. We have 150 students living in the building on the left. The first floor is our storefront operations for admissions, financial aid, and the registrar's office. In back of that, we have the Drug Information Resource Center, which could be anywhere in the state, but it's here in Worcester. It's a $600,000 grant. We've had that now for 7 years. And it's an 800 number that anyone in Massachusetts can call and get information on their drugs. The most important service we do is to tell people how to get their medication paid for. We get over 1,200 phone calls a month. You know, when people call, part of pharmaceutical care, if you don't know how to pay for your medicine and get it, then what good is learning all about the medication? You're either eligible for Medicaid or the Advantage program, Medicare D, the Indigent Drug Program. We do all the paperwork. Many of the pharmaceutical companies give free drugs, but if the paperwork is horrendous, and we do that here. We advise patients working with their physician about a generic versus a brand. Many of the seniors are on several medications, duplicating it because they've seen a couple of doctors. So it's been a great service, but it's here in downtown Worcester. It was an open state bid, and we received it, and it's been so successful. We update it every 2 years. It goes out to bid, and we've had that now. We have 7 people who work there. They're pharmacists, discharge planners, and 1 nurse. So that's in Worcester, and it's a hidden secret here. So if you want to call up and find out, can you take, how many glasses of wine can you have with your Viagra, they will actually talk to you, you know. So So we're maximized at that building. And the second building, we have a nursing program, and you have to have a bachelor's degree. You have to have the right prerequisites, and in 16 months, we give you a second bachelor's in nursing. And we've already graduated 2 classes in Mechanics Hall, and we have a 100% pass rate. This last class had a 100% pass rate on the nursing exam, which is really spectacular. The physician assistance program is very successful. In New England, there are 6 physician assistance programs. We own 3 of them, Worcester, Manchester, and Boston. There's one at Northeastern, Springfield College, in New England, up in Maine. And today, only 2% of your medical students are going into primary care. And of course, the reason for that is if you're a primary care physician, you only make $150,000. You work nights and weekends, but if you specialize, you can make big bucks and have weekends and nights off. So most of the physicians are, specializing. So there's a big void in primary care physicians and physician assistants and nurse practitioners. The hospitals can't hire enough of them. I live 5 minutes up the street. I'm from Worcester, as David said before. I used to own 6 pharmacies in Worcester, so Worcester has been very good to me, and it's a great place to do business. I'm very active in Worcester. I'm on the VNA Care Network Board. I'm on the St. Vincent's Hospital Board. I'm on the Fallon Community Health Plan Board, and I got rid of a few other boards, but those are the 3 I'm on right now. And so this campus, we have big plans. So let's talk about our future plans. And Tim, you want to just turn the... So this is another shot of the second building that we've built. And believe it or not, we're out of space in that building. And in Boston, we have 31 degrees and certificates. We've only brought 3 here in Worcester. We have a bachelor's in dental hygiene. A dental hygienist makes $70,000. If you graduate from a community college with an associate degree, we only give a baccalaureate in Boston. We have 200 students, and they can teach in the community colleges. They can teach in the community colleges, and they can go to work for industry, Procter & Gamble, Colgate, and the rest of them, and some do oral health. And so those 2 programs are there. Honey Farms is there, and we pay taxes on that portion of the building. So these 2 buildings we do not pay taxes on. However, the first building, the city was getting $5,000 a year in taxes. The second building, the city was getting $50,000 in taxes. The economic impact of our campus, 400 students contribute $10 million in spending to a community. We have a report from ACOM, and our students are living all over the city. We only have 150 living here, and most of them are living and they're renting. They spend money here, and they pay tuition, and we do not have any food service in the building, so they patronize all the restaurants. We have many events up in the 9th floor. We open that up to any nonprofit organization, depending on the purpose of it. And so far this year, over 50 organizations have used that top floor. We don't charge them for it, and we get more out of it than we put into it. So it's a great service to the city, but it also gives us a lot of exposure. Can I have the next slide? Because pharmacy's maxed out, and see, pharmacy is 2 years of liberal arts. We have that in Boston, but they're the right liberal arts. They're all the math and sciences. And then 4 professional years. Well, in Worcester, we only take transfer students for the 4 professional years, and they have to have the pre-pharmacy requisites. Although 85% of the pharmacy students in Worcester have a baccalaureate, have a 4-year baccalaureate. Now they want to be a pharmacist. They start at $110,000 at CVS. I just talked to some students the other day. And there's a great shortage of pharmacists as well as all these other health professionals. So we have notified the accreditation body that we purchased the building. It's going to be ready in early summer. We're spending $10 million on the building to supplement our other pharmacy building. And in the front window, you'll see students with white coats filling prescriptions. On the left-hand side, you'll see students with white coats in the student lounge. They're required to wear the white coat whenever they're in our building. And the nursing students and physician assistant students do the same thing. And we have a white coat ceremony. It's a big deal. The average age of our students is 28, so we have cocktail receptions at these events. And we treat them like adults, and they are adults. There's some structure problems, columns which we're removing. We're going to have two 250-seat classrooms in the building, which we desperately need. And there'll be faculty offices and other services there. So we have the building, we've notified the accreditation body, we're in the process of hiring 5 faculty members, 3 staff, so we'll have the staff, and we have the clinical sites. We've moved all the way down into Rhode Island. We have Rhode Island Hospital and almost every hospital in Rhode Island, Cape Cod Hospital for our students, and we're going to increase the, right now we have 150 students per class. We're going to increase it by 100. We'll have 250 students per class. So we'll increase our pharmacy students by 300 or 400 students with this building. And that's a quick fix, and within 3 years we'll be up to that capacity. And there'll be more jobs there with, maintenance and security and everything else that goes with it. So that's our next project, and that's, being done right now. And can I see the, now we have purchased 7 buildings in Worcester, and we have plans, a master plan, that, to spend $50 million more. And it's a 10-year master plan. It all depends, how things are going, whether we can accelerate it or not. We like to take old buildings and renovate them. The Henrietta de Benedictis building got 6 architectural awards. It was built in 1898, but really you have to gut the whole thing, and it's just a facade because of all the ADA requirements, the asbestos, the earthquake, seismic. We have a gentleman here who can tell us all about that. Where are you? Mr. Consigli, right there. And all the fire code and safety issues. So we've already done 2 buildings. We're doing the one across the street, which is 30,000 square feet. The whole entrance has to be changed because of the ADA regulations. It only has 1 elevator in it. We're using all Worcester companies, union and non-union. The elevators company has to be union, and most, depending on the trade. The building, the second building we did was 40% non-union and 60% union, so we were able to pull that off. The next building we want to do is the one on the corner, the old telegraph building, right here. We're looking at that now into, we want to expand nursing. We're going to bring in master's program, and we have a new program where 80%, in Massachusetts alone, there's 125,000 nurses. Well, 80% of them only have an associate degree or a diploma degree. Well, we're going to have a program to bring them from a registered nurse to a master's. And that's done in several other states, and we're working on that, and that's our next program. When we do that, we'll have to have this second building done. And as we grow programs, we will utilize the buildings. The buildings right now have 50% occupancy, and all the tenants know that, our plans are to, take one building at a time. We do it the right way. We give the tenants plenty of notice, and we help them to move and other incentives to do that. So we've been very successful. So when we're done, we hope to have all 7 buildings completed. Right now with the second building, the building we're working on right now, we hope to bring our enrollment up to 1,000 students. And when we do the others, I can see this campus maxing out at 2,000 students. So Boston has 3,000 students. The Worcester campus will have 2,000 students. And this campus has been so successful, we now have a satellite up in Manchester, New Hampshire, which is a building right on Elm Street downtown. In Manchester, they don't have a Main Street. They call it Elm Street. And we're very successful there with the same 3 programs we have in Worcester. So I'm going to stop now because I think I have my 10 minutes, and I'll be happy to take any questions that anyone would have. Bless you. Oh, just one thing. There was parking is a big issue, David, and we are leasing 325 parking spaces. And as we grow, we're going to need 500 parking spaces. And of course, across the street at the City Square, we have the largest parking garage in the Northeast. There's 4,000 cars there. So we have our eye on the development there because we desperately need those. Without parking, we're out of business. And also, there was a negative article in the paper a month or so ago about our students are unhappy with downtown Worcester. Well, it was an unfair article because when the reporter came in, there were only the freshmen, and they were there 30 days. So they come from 23 states. So can you imagine coming from another state, living in downtown Worcester, not knowing anything, and they were only there 30 days. But if you talk to the majority of our students, they love Worcester, they know where to go, and they know where to get around. We have zip cars. We have 2 zip cars now. The city was very gracious. They gave us 2 parking spaces, and zip cars are utilized by anyone in Worcester. So they use zip cars weekends, and they know what to do, and they're very happy. Well, they have their commencement, as I said, in Mechanics Hall, the Great Hall. They go to the theater. We sponsor the Ice Cats, and we have tickets available. They use the Fit Corps down at St. Vincent's Hospital. We belong to that, and we have a student rate, so most of them utilize that. So the students, once they get to know Worcester, like Worcester. But, that article, when they came in, these kids were there 30 days and just getting their feet wet. So, okay, thanks.
You see why Charlie's my hero. He managed to give me more camera time than a moderator normally gets. But also, he managed to mention cocktails, wine, and Viagra in a presentation on downtown Worcester. Let me just say a final word about how important the college is to downtown Worcester. I've been with the WBDC for 10 years, and during that period, we have only given out 1 grant, and it was to Mass College of Pharmacy. During that same period, Mass Development has only given out 1 grant, and it too was to Mass College of Pharmacy. And I think it's indicative of how important this is to downtown and the growth potential that President Monahan has just outlined. Hero number 2, the Picknelly family, and particularly this morning, Paul. I hope you see a theme settling in here, and this is one of the reasons I love doing economic development in Worcester. I've had a chance to do it in Boston, but when you come back to Worcester, it becomes about family, and it becomes about legacy. And our first 2 speakers typify that, and our third speaker, Paul Picknelly, puts an exclamation point on it, because even though Paul and his father, Peter, who was a dear friend of mine, and more importantly, a dear friend of the city of Worcester, have been invested in this community, even though their base of operations is Springfield, for a long time. Paul is the president of Monarch Enterprises, a hospitality real estate firm, as I mentioned, located in Springfield. The firm operates 4 hotels, the most recent of which is the Hilton Garden Inn here in Worcester, and we're very grateful that Paul made this commitment to the downtown area. And probably the single most important thing to reinforce the city's investment in the convention center across the street. Paul is no stranger to Worcester, and while most of his business activity takes place in Springfield, the Picknelly family owns and operates the Peter Pan Bus Lines, which is the largest privately owned bus company in the United States, and they have had a presence in Worcester for many, many years and were an important part of the intermodal transportation center at Union Station. Paul Picknelly.
Thank you, David. I thought I'd start off by sharing with you some of the highlights of our investment that we've made here in our Hilton Garden Inn Hotel. As I said earlier, we've been open for over 2 years now. This was a $25 million investment. We have 200 guest rooms and suites. We have over 4,500 square feet of flexible meeting room space. And we have a full-service Uno Chicago Grill restaurant on the first floor. We employ in excess of 100 people, and we generate over $1 million a year in taxes, and 70% of that money stays in the city of Worcester. In 2008, we'll sell approximately 40,000 hotel rooms. We have 1,000 guests on a weekly basis to spend the night here in downtown Worcester, and our economic impact is over $15 million annually. When we were looking at a hotel in Worcester, we went to the city leaders and asked if it would be possible or they would consider selling their fire station and having a hotel on the site. We identified that as being the best location for a new hotel because this hotel, in our opinion, complements the DCU Center next door, and it certainly completes the center. Meeting planners who are looking for a convention center facility want an adjacent hotel. One of the things that I've done for the past 10 years is be a board of directors of the Massachusetts Convention Center Authority, and we have a number of studies that have been conducted by the state identifying what meeting planners want, and the number one thing they want is an adjacent hotel. So we believe that our hotel complex completed the DCU Center. It's something that should have happened when the convention center was built many years ago. However, there are a few issues that need to be addressed, in our opinion, as it relates to the DCU Center. We think it's a very well-run facility, but it's showing its wear and tear. The facility, the arena especially, is 25 years old. It basically needs a facelift, and the technology upgrades must meet the 21st century arena standards. We also believe that there should be a direct connection from our hotel to the DCU Center. That was the original plans. We will be working with the city leaders about that. Inclement weathers like today is certainly a good example why this hotel should have a direct connection by a sky bridge from here to the DCU Center. And later on, I guess I'd like to address some of the issues that I believe should take place at the DCU Center. But before I do that, I guess I asked in advance of this meeting, well, what should I speak about besides the highlights of our hotel? And Sandy Dunn from the DCU Center replied, says, we'd like to have you speak 10 minutes on the hospitality industry for 2009. And as I thought about that, I can't speak 10 seconds about what's going to happen in 2009, let alone 2009. I don't think there's anybody out there that I know of that can predict what's going to happen in 2009. However, we believe that Worcester should fare well because of the positive attributes that it offers. Certainly one of the things that it's a strength is because of its location in Massachusetts, and more importantly, its location in New England. We believe that your investment that you made on 146 connector to Providence was a very positive connection. We believe that Worcester is relatively affordable, especially if you compare it to cities like Boston. And we believe that your recent investment in Union Station and expanding the commuter rail, although we generally don't like to talk about commuter rail, was a positive attribute for Worcester, and we certainly believe that long term that was a positive attribute for Worcester. So since I really can't predict what's going to happen in 2009, I can tell you that for the first time in my adult life, we have not produced a budget for a full year. We actually produced a quarterly budget, which is the first time we've ever done that because we simply can't predict what 2009 is going to be. So I decided to say, to you this morning, some of the things that I've been involved with in the city of Springfield that I believe were positive initiatives that took place, and share those with you because we believe that some of the challenges that Worcester's facing is what was faced in Springfield a few years back, and they're still working on some of these issues. And the first one that I think I'd like to highlight is that the City of Worcester went to the private developers and private business owners and conducted a ULR study. That's a Urban Land Institute. They provide independent leadership and with responsibility to the use of lands and creates a blueprint for sustaining a thriving community. This study was, I believe, about $125,000, was fully funded by private businesses. We believe that that study was a great blueprint for our city and also developers to work under. It really focused on all areas of our city, whether it be the neighborhoods, whether it be downtown, whether it be the parks, etc. So we encourage that. It's something that I think has been a positive issue for Springfield. And again, it was fully funded by private enterprise. The next issue was the City of Springfield conducted a developers conference. They invited developers literally all across the region and nationally to come to Springfield to listen to our city leaders, our mayor. They identified areas in Springfield that were priority developments for them. They identified the incentives that the City of Springfield was going to put together for these developers. And we believe that that was a huge success. I think that there was in excess of 250 people that attended. Again, these are developers all around the country. And some of those developers have made investments in downtown Springfield, in our neighborhoods, in our parks. One of the things that I do in addition to our businesses, I'm a board of director member of the Springfield Business Improvement District. We've had a bid in Springfield for about 10 years now. We have a budget of about $1 million, and this is, again, fully funded by private enterprise. The $1 million is designed to improve downtown Springfield only. I'm not exactly sure how many blocks we incur, but it's somewhere around 12 to 15 blocks, and they basically surround Main Street, Springfield. The $1 million is spent in many different ways. First of all, we believe that the perception of crime in Springfield is a problem for us. I heard in the report earlier that that's basically the same challenge that the City of Worcester has. We invested over $300,000 in security cameras on Main Street, Springfield. Those security cameras work 24/7. There's a direct link to the Springfield Police Department. And it wouldn't have happened if we didn't have a business improvement district. I know that that's being discussed, and I certainly encourage the City of Worcester to adopt a business improvement district. It has proven to be a huge success for our city. In addition to public safety, we have guides that are on our city streets. These guides work almost a 20-hour day. They actually attend many events at our convention center, whether it be our performing arts center, whether it be the hockey game. These guides actually assist people as they're exiting and entering the facility. They walk people to parking garages if they feel that they need that assistance. They direct people who are from out of town how to get to places in downtown Springfield. And in my opinion, a huge positive issue when you're trying to attack the perception of an unsafe city by having these guides on our streets. The other issue is something that I've been discussing for the last probably 5 or 6 years. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened in Springfield, but it's something that I am passionate about. And our first two speakers talked about parking. Brian mentioned that it's not a problem, but I assume that you meant that because there's availability of parking. I think parking is a problem in our cities. It's a problem in Springfield, and I believe it's a problem in Worcester. In my opinion, the City of Worcester should look at forming a parking authority that would allow parking to be free 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If you think about it for 5 seconds, you think I have 3 heads. But if you really, really think about it, I think it changes the dynamics of any major city. I don't know of a major city in our country that offers this, and I think you'll be one of the major cities, if not the only one, that would offer this. One of our other businesses is we're in a Class A office building. We have 400,000 square feet of Class A office suite in downtown Springfield, and our tenants tell us that they expend about $3 to $3.50 a square foot just on parking alone. And if we can eliminate that expense, I think you're going to find many other businesses that would like to relocate to Worcester if they have free available parking. And it's something that I'm passionate about. It's something that I think that Springfield should do, and I certainly think it's something that Worcester should do. I also heard rumors that the city was thinking about privatizing their garages. In my opinion, that's a terrible idea. I think putting those parking garages that I think are abundant into the hands of private organizations would not benefit the economic development in downtown Worcester. And the last subject matter that I'd like to talk about, again, I'm very passionate about because we've been involved in it for years, is casino gaming. You probably all know that the governor is looking at casino gaming in Massachusetts. There's an issue out there now being discussed about 3 casinos in our state, one of them being in Western Massachusetts. If that's to happen, it's our understanding that Western Massachusetts will include the city of Worcester. We believe that that Palmer, Massachusetts, which is about halfway between Worcester and Springfield, has been identified as the best location in Worcester, Mass. In Central and Worcester, Mass. We believe that casino gaming will help all of downtowns. We believe that because it's halfway between Worcester and Springfield, the economic benefit that that you get with a casino will benefit not only Worcester but Springfield. I'm told that there will be in excess of 3,000 construction jobs. I'm also told that there will be in excess of 4,000 permanent jobs. I think those jobs will come both from Springfield and Worcester. Again, we believe it's halfway in between. I know it's a controversial subject matter, but when you look at hotel industries in and around a casino, they're thriving. And people like to have that as a part of entertainment. I believe that that completes some conventions. I think conventioners looking for bringing a convention to a city would like to have some other entertainment venues, and I think a casino does that as well. And the last issue I'd like to talk about is the DCU Center. As I said earlier, I think it's a really well-run facility. I think it's the appropriate size, but I don't think that the city is using the DCU Center to its full potential. I don't think that the management has been looking at the center as a loss leader, and I think that that's what they should be looking at. The cost of running the facility is expensive. The cost to operate the facility for a convention to come in town is also expensive. We believe that the city should look at their convention center as a catalyst for increasing conventions. We believe you should reduce the cost, make it much more affordable than any other convention center in the Northeast. And I think if you do that, the word will get out. Meeting planners will consider Worcester because of its affordability, especially during these economic times. And I think the increased business you get off it will certainly outweigh what those extra reductions in revenue would be for the DCU Center. That's all I have to say. I was happy to be able to bring these matters to your attention. As the moderator said, we're happy to address any questions you have at the end of this forum. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank Paul for what his family has done for the city of Worcester and for being willing to be a little provocative and come with some ideas and some things that we need to debate and talk about and consider for the future. I'm the moderator, so I'm supposed to be neutral, but I will tell you so we can talk later. if you bat 300, you get in the Hall of Fame, and 2 out of 3 isn't bad. So, but I do think the idea is particularly about parking, and anyone who's done development knows that it always comes down to parking. It is always about the parking. We're facing that in every development proposal we do, and I think Paul's ideas are very much worth considering, because I've always felt that if Worcester, or for that matter Springfield, could become known as the city where it's easiest and cheapest to park and do things, that's not a bad image to portray to the outside world, and would have some legs. Before I introduce our final speaker, I want to recognize City Councilor Barbara Haller, the hardiest of city councilors, who joined us here this morning. Barbara is a member of the Commerce and Development Committee, or whatever they're calling it these days. So the fate of downtown and all those doing development is somewhat in her capable hands, and we want to thank her for coming. I also want to thank the Research Bureau for putting so much emphasis on downtown and economic development under Roberta Schaefer's leadership. That's been an ongoing theme. I think at least 3 of the last significant reports we've done have involved economic development in downtown. That's important. The WBDC shares that sense of importance, and our recently completed strategic plan actually makes a conscious decision that going forward the WBDC will put all of its resources and most of its time and staff energy to working to help the city redevelop downtown. We have the bookends in the Hanover Theater and Carroll Enterprises, and if at the risk of sounding self-serving, Gateway at the northern end, and we have now the, I think, good assignment of working on what comes in between to revitalize Main Street. I think that's a good segue to introduce our final speaker, Tim McGuirthy, who is the Director of Economic Development for the City of Worcester, and I think we're very fortunate that he was willing to take his considerable talents from Boston to Worcester. In Boston, he served in a key position on the at the Boston Redevelopment Authority, an organization that I'm very familiar with from my days as the Director of Business Development at Massport. I just want to personalize this a little. The WBDC meets with the City Development Office with Julie Jacobson and Tim and their staff on a weekly basis to coordinate things. And our view is that we're here to help the city. And I think that Tim has brought sophistication on both the planning and development side to that effort. He has been a great partner with us. Prior to working at the Boston Redevelopment Authority, he worked at the Carnegie Corporation of New York and the Commonwealth of Virginia's Governor's Office, so he has considerable political as well as economic development strategy, and I'm sure he would agree at the end of the day the political skills are necessary to get the professional stuff done. Tim is a graduate of the College of William and Mary and holds a master's degree from both Johns Hopkins University and the Kennedy School of Government. Tim is going to begin with a very brief video, which I was supposed to show first, so I'm going to try to rally from that, and rally even further by not sitting in front of it this time. So Tim will begin with a video and then some remarks, and I think it's fitting that he bats cleanup because he's responsible for the overall vision. Tim McGuirthy.
Thank you, David, and thanks to the Research Bureau for holding this forum. The video I'm about to show is about all of Worcester, not just downtown Worcester, but I think it is important to put the downtown into context, and I have to admit, add a little bit of a positive spin to all of the things that are going on here in the city, including the projects of the people sitting next to me here. So I, too, will get out of the way, but...
All great cities share certain traits. A vibrant, undeniable energy and culture that drives their growth and characterizes their livability. Welcome to Worcester, Massachusetts, the heart of the Commonwealth. As the second largest city in New England with a population of nearly 176,000 people, Worcester combines the warmth of a small town with the convenience of a thriving city. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, Worcester County is experiencing a boom in resident and job growth, one of the largest in the Northeast. As an economic engine for central Massachusetts and the Commonwealth, Worcester is a smart city and a smart choice. With over $1.6 billion in public and private construction planned, underway, or recently completed within the city, Worcester is truly a city on the move. Berkeley Investments' $560 million City Square, the largest real estate development in Massachusetts outside of Greater Boston, will soon break ground on approximately 2 million square feet of new residential, office, retail, and entertainment uses, as well as provide a direct connection between downtown's Main Street, Washington Square, and Shrewsbury Street's Restaurant Row. Worcester's innovative and entrepreneurial spirit has encouraged the advancement of cutting-edge industries such as high technology and life sciences. The 137,000 square foot Worcester Polytechnic Institute Life Sciences and Bioengineering Center recently opened at Gateway Park, the latest project in an effort that will result in over 1 million square feet of new office, incubator, R&D, retail, and residential space within the decade. The University of Massachusetts Medical School, home to 2007 Nobel laureate Dr. Craig Mello, continues to expand with the construction of the 285,000 square foot Advanced Education and Clinical Practice Center, further establishing Worcester's position as one of the largest bioscience higher education centers in the country. As the Greater Boston area continues to experience high housing prices, young professionals are in search of more affordable, convenient, and comfortable living with a high quality of life. Our cultural offerings, already including the renowned Worcester Art Museum, Mechanics Hall, and the Higgins Armory, were recently enhanced by the magnificently renovated 2,300-seat Hanover Theatre for the Performing Arts, which opened in March 2008. Worcester is well known as a creative city, home to more than 50 cultural and arts organizations and a host of creative businesses and industries. Centrally located, Worcester has easy access not only to Boston's western suburbs, but via I-495, I-84, and Route 146, quick connections to the North Shore and South Shore, as well as Providence, Rhode Island, and Hartford, Connecticut. The major transportation hub of the city, Union Station, is also acknowledged as one of the Commonwealth's most beautiful public buildings. Union Station hosts Amtrak, MBTA commuter rail, and both local and national bus service. As a center for commerce, industry, and learning, Worcester's growth can be attributed to the low cost of housing, high quality of life, overall accessibility, and our growing knowledge-based economy. Worcester has evolved from its days as a manufacturing giant to a leader in information technology, biotechnology, healthcare, and medical research. This change has transformed Worcester's economy. Nearly 40% of all jobs within the city are in the educational and medical fields. Worcester is a smart city. With over 15 colleges and universities within Greater Worcester, a young, educated workforce is an integral component of our community. Over 42% of our residents between the ages of 25 and 34 boast a bachelor's degree or higher, more than nearly all of the top New England cities. This workforce is the reason many of our major employers call Worcester home. As a robust and vibrant community that is forging its own path, the city of Worcester is a smart city and a smart choice. For more information, please check out worcestermass.org or call 508-799-1400, extension 3.
That was done, I should say, completely in-house for the city, by the city, and we're extremely grateful to the government channel for putting that together and working with the Economic Development Office on it. I apologize, but I'm going to need to sit here only to be able to move the slides forward. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and talk about the issues of downtown and the opportunities of downtown. And I especially appreciate that the Research Bureau's goal is to spark debate, because whenever I read one of their reports, there are often things I like to debate about them. And so one of the things I did want to do is just touch on a couple of the facts that are in the report and show how Worcester is actually doing phenomenally well when you compare it to many of its sister cities around New England. I thought I'd start just by a quick overview of really who are we? Why are, what are we doing? Who are we? First and foremost, we're the second largest city in New England. That's a major coup. It's one we're close at, so nobody leave, because we need to keep that edge on Providence. But it's an important sign that people want to be in Worcester. They're coming to Worcester. Between 2000 and 2005, Worcester's population grew by 3,000 people, more than any other city or town in Massachusetts, but for Boston itself. So we are still a place that is attracting quite a bit. We're also in good range of millions of other people who can feed our workforce. Over 6 million people within an hour's drive. That's an opportunity for Worcester that Boston doesn't have, Providence doesn't have, Hartford doesn't have. When you think about it, half of Boston's edge is water. Worcester's is land all the way around. That gives us much greater access. We have a fairly high median income, area median income, based on HUD standards. We have a large array of office space in many businesses, 3,476 according to the Census Bureau. There's been different estimates, but with that, it creates a payroll over $2.35 billion every year being paid to people working in the city of Worcester. We want to look at ways of capturing that payroll, having those dollars spent in the downtown. Our hotel rooms, of which we're here located in one of the great hotels of downtown Worcester, our colleges and universities, and again, represented here on the panel, and the students that come with that. And importantly, we're a convenient place with MBTA access, the commuter rail, increasing numbers of commuter rail activities between Worcester and Boston, Amtrak, the bus service, Peter Pan, Greyhound, and then intra-city bus service, the WRTA. And it's mentioned in the Research Bureau report, but I think it's important to note, while we often get caught up in the daily grind of how do we make things better, people on the outside are seeing the change that's going on. Forbes magazine rated Worcester among the top 3 cities for businesses and career in 2008 in New England. And CNN Money named us one of the top 40 cities in all of the United States to live and launch a business, and put us in the 5 hotspots in the United States for biotechnology. What's going on? Plenty. When you think of it on an individual level, it's often hard to see the whole, but as you look at this map up here, it is an incredible array of activity that we see going on, not only in the downtown, but along many of our major corridors and out in our different employment centers. This is something, all of what you see on this map was activity going on in the last year to year and a half. So it's an incredible opportunity for us to see what's happening now and where we're going in the future. And this is a selected list. There's still plenty more out there. We wanted to look at some of the issues raised in the report. Number 1, vacancy rates. Worcester's vacancy rate is actually phenomenally low compared to most major cities. David mentioned I worked at the Boston Redevelopment Authority. When I started at the Boston Redevelopment Authority, Boston's vacancy rate was 3%. That was the second lowest vacancy in all of the country. San Francisco was the only place that beat us in terms of that vacancy. When I left the Boston Redevelopment Authority in 2006 to come to Worcester, Boston's vacancy rate was 18%. Worcester's at the time was 10%. We actually have that 10%. If you go back over the years, that 10% has been fairly stable across the board, give or take a little move up or down in different directions. But that stability is a hallmark of the Worcester market. We're inevitably among the very top cities in Massachusetts and New England in terms of our low vacancy. You can see from this here, this is just a quick overview of, we're comparing different major cities. We're doing pretty well when it comes to office vacancy. What we need to do is be able to test that market. We need to show that if new supply is added in, that supply can be absorbed and that there's new space for people to work out of. One of the things we struggle with is our vacancy is not all in one location. It's not that we have 3 huge buildings looking for space, looking for tenants. We have many buildings with small spaces looking for tenants. So unless we can match the right size tenant to the right available space, it's a difficult prospect. One of the reasons why we're encouraging new development is that we believe with the new space that would come online, you would then have the amount of square footage, 50,000 square feet, 100,000 square feet, that's currently missing in the Worcester office market. Commercial tax rates, always a hot button issue here. We're looking here, I'll admit this is FY 2008 data. The new 2009 data has come out, but we haven't been able to compare it across all cities as yet. But as you can see from this, we do have a higher commercial tax rate than many of our surrounding communities, but we're actually right on par for most urban areas. The dual tax rate is a fairly consistent model used in cities, recognizing the larger diversity of mix in a city. So when people talk about Worcester's tax rate, yes, it's high compared to others around us, but it's not high compared to major New England cities and major cities across the country. We do recognize that in order to be at a competitive advantage, we need to address the differential. We need to figure out a way to make us closer, if not the same as our surrounding towns and communities. But we also want to recognize that we're not the outlier. We're actually just the kind of similar, if not better, than many of our sister communities. And then finally, our workforce. I think it's important to note that Worcester has an incredibly rich workforce. This here, we show the difference, and it was mentioned in the video, of 25 to 34-year-olds. 42% have a bachelor's degree or higher, more than almost every other major New England city. It's an incredible statistic. It's something that we explain to businesses as they look at Worcester. It's something we can build on. Plus, we have a wide range of skills. Worcester's in a place that's transforming from a former manufacturing industrial center into a kind of white-collar healthcare educational center. You know, how do we make sure that our workforce that's trained for all of these different roles can fit into whatever new economy develops? And you know, continuing education, working not only through our high schools and our vocational school. We have the first new vocational school in 25 years here in Worcester, the Worcester Technical High School, which trained and retrains our workforce for new jobs. We also work closely with the Central Mass Regional Employment Board and Workforce Central, which are located in the same building as we are, the Economic Development Office at 44 Front Street, to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to tap into our changing economy. So finally, downtown. Are there things to do in downtown Worcester? And we say emphatically yes. Worcester is thriving. Depends on the time of day, it depends on what you're looking for, but there's plenty here to do. We went through a list, and this is an anecdotal list generated by the Economic Development Office of what would we do in downtown Worcester. But as you can see, there's events. There's, you know, within a few block radius. I would suspect few cities have the wealth of activity centers as Worcester does, with the DCU, Mechanics Hall, the Palladium, Hanover Theater, all within one easy area, Foothills Theater. We have restaurants, and we have new restaurants starting. I don't know if folks have been to the Armsby Abbey yet, across from the new courthouse, the Garden Fresh Courthouse Cafe. There are places to go out for lunch, places for dinner. Viva Bene, Giovanni's, which just opened last week, the old GAR Hall, a new restaurant has opened up within there. So there's places to go eat. There's places to go out and have a beer after work. You know, there's all sorts of things to do. The key is letting people know, guiding them from one place to another. We want to make sure that folks who go to an event at the DCU recognize that there are things to do right around the corner. They may not see it, they may not know it's there, but if they just search a little, they'll find it. Or if we can put in place a system for guiding people throughout, and we're working with Destination Worcester right now on a downtown map, something that shows all of the different things you can do in the downtown, we can figure out a way to connect all those millions of people. Over 2 million people come into Worcester every year to come to cultural activities and events at the various venues. We want to make all of those 2 million people stop for dinner, go out to eat sometime beforehand or after their event. finally, to do that, and as we look at the physical layout of the city, when the mall was built back in the day, what it did is it absorbed retail off of Main Street. What we want to do is try to help that retail spill back out onto the streets. And one of the ways we're looking at doing that is trying to figure out how do we build on the assets we have, things like the DCU, Mechanics Hall, Hanover Theater, and encourage the type of development, the type of ground floor activity that will work best for the people who might frequent that spot at whatever time of day they're there. If you surround the DCU with late night activity and yet most of the people are there for a conference during the day, they're not going to have anything to do. If you have the Hanover Theater feeding a nighttime crowd and yet the lunch places are around the Hanover Theater, it's not going to connect. So we look at each area, at what time of day is there activity, what type of activity is it, and then how do we work with individual property owners? And this is the next step, and we're going to call on all of you, everyone, to try to figure out how do we get ground floor office space, which is basically dead space when you're thinking of an urban environment, up off the ground floor into the upper floors so that the base, the ground level, the street level can become retail, it can become restaurants, it can become places that people feel like there are things to do as they walk down the street. Finally, how do we do that? And I appreciate the comments earlier about targeting and yet recognizing the connection of the neighborhoods into the downtown. We're working on a strategic plan. The city manager is looking to release it in the next few weeks that targets what we do as a city. We have limited resources. We have to recognize that, as David said, you cannot have a donut and be successful. You have to address the downtown. You have to bring the vitality back in. You have to connect the vitality that's there. So we're working on a strategic plan that focuses on our commercial area revitalization district, which is something the council approved, state has approved. It's an area that's focused on the downtown and some of those key connecting corridors in. We're looking to create specific goals and accomplishments. Rather than just say, we'll take care of this area, we'll say how we'll take care of this area. And to do that, we're looking for new resources, trying to guide the resources we receive into those key corridors. Make sure that incremental change can leverage additional change. These are the goals we're looking at, and again, it's about prioritizing what we're doing, defining our activities, and then quantifying what we're actually accomplishing. We can't say Worcester's employment rate is going higher and think we can change that generally. The employment rate is a macroeconomic issue. What we can say is how do we target new jobs and how do we target those jobs towards our workforce and towards our workforce needs. So for each one of these goals that we've created, we're looking for very quantifiable things we can say either we've accomplished it or we haven't, but we know we have the responsibility, we have the tools to actually address that individual issue. Nothing I do can change the flow of the broader economy in the United States. That said, with a targeted resource, we can change what happens in an individual storefront on Main Street. We can address what's going on a block within the Main Street or downtown area. We can push to make sure that the things under our control are addressed in a way that we leverage additional growth as the economy begins to swing back up. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I didn't think that anyone could outdo Charlie Monahan, but if you read the slide very carefully, Tim introduced chilling at the hookah bar and headbanging at the Palladium. And I know
something for everyone in Worcester.
I know some of the panelists have felt at times that doing development in the city of Worcester involves a little headbanging, and I salute them all for hanging in there and doing some very special things. But I want to end and then open it up to questions on a very upbeat note, because I really think we should be upbeat. I've been doing this for a long time. I have never seen, in spite of a difficult economy, the stars aligned quite as well in terms of a consistent vision for where this city can and will go. And so I think in that regard, we're in good shape. Tim makes a very good point. The hallmark of Worcester has been stability. Sometimes that's not very romantic, But Worcester has this ability to never get too low, and we probably haven't gotten that high, but we stay in there in the very solid middle, and we really can get some things done. Paul and I were speaking before the program began, and I wish we could take the citizens of Worcester on a tour to other urban areas in the Northeast. I had the privilege of doing that when I was at HUD, and if you did go to some of these other communities, you would realize how fortunate we are in a place like Worcester, what the potential is, and the fact that individuals and organizations can really make a difference. And our panelists have certainly proven that here today. So more talk than a moderator should do. Let me open it up. I know we're a little past 9:30, but you've come a long way under difficult circumstances, so we'll stay and answer questions as long as folks have them. We don't have a microphone as we typically do, but I think the video will pick it up if anyone has questions for any of our panelists. Mark.
A question about parking, and it has to do maybe with communities that have succeeded in providing some type of either trolley service with a centralized parking that was either relatively inexpensive or free. I'm wondering if we have an opportunity to take a look at maybe the Wyman Gordon property, which I would imagine would have a sizable cleanup costs, but if it were surface parking, we might be able to reduce those costs to see if we can't use that as centralized parking maybe during the day for employers who are trying to move into downtown Worcester, but parking becomes a major issue, and then in the evenings for entertainment purposes. So just out of curiosity, especially given how successful the Canal District has been organically, and I mean already they're exploding at the seams at night. I mean after 11 o'clock at night you can't find a parking spot in the Canal District. So just out of curiosity.
Anyone want to take that on? Paul?
I can make a comment
Yep.
about that. Same issue was proposed in Springfield, and unfortunately was not a success. There was a lot that was basically underneath 91, probably the same distance between Wyman Gordon's lot and maybe City Hall, if you will. It was operated by the Pioneer Valley Transit Authority, which had a shuttle loop basically from that off-premise lot to downtown Main Street, if you will. And it was a discounted program. I believe it was about $35 a month, which included your monthly parking and your free bus service, to and from downtown. And it was a marginal success, I think.
Could I add a brief comment to that? The place I've seen it done most successfully is downtown Denver. But I think, again, it's important to be optimistic and hopeful, but you also have to be realistic. And for that type of kind of step-on, step-off trolley to work, there has to be the stuff there to step on and off for. And I think that that's the sequence we have to work on this. We have to revitalize Main Street in a way that will produce the types of stops that at a later date would make the transportation successful. I think sometimes we try to do those in the wrong order. We think, gee, if they have the transportation, they will come. But I think you really have to create the infrastructure, the aesthetic, the atmosphere for something like that to succeed. Other questions?
David?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Brian. Yes. Yep.
On the parking, it may also, again, if you want to be imaginative for a moment, and I personally missed the trolley tracks. I remember as a kid, growing up on Main Street, when every time they would resurface the road, you'd still see the rails, and it was really, really hoot. But if I had to go do our building all over again, and this is, I think, a solution that's definitely in the cards, especially with some of the older buildings that I mentioned earlier. Every building in Boston has the foundation-based parking, where the parking goes beneath the ground. So it's a matter of looking at some of the buildings that nobody uses now, the old Bancroft Motors or the old some of the other places on Main Street. I mean, you saw it, every piece of successful property that's been put together in Worcester has been a replacement of something that was there before. whether it's the courthouse, whether it's this building itself, replaced the fire station, the courthouse, replaced Shaboob's. Yeah, we all went over it, but it replaced it. Probably the only mistake with the courthouse is they might have been able to put parking beneath the courthouse, really dig into the foundation and make more subterranean parking. That's expensive, but it's also a significant way to solve the problem as some of the buildings get redone. If you were to put a lot in Wyman Gordon, you would lose what you could use that lot to do something else with. So that's the only trade-off. But I think subterranean parking would work, and I think I do happen to agree with Paul. If the city does control the garages, at least you can get affordable parking. You have more control, and that's what I was trying to mention before. With my parking problems, I have employees come in. Worcester has a sort of an aversion of paying for parking. Worcester residents, the old Auburn Mall, Worcester Center conflict that was, what we all grew up with, Solomon Paul versus Worcester Center. But I think having, working with the city, with the city-owned garage, allows us to we actually pay about 80% of the parking for our employees. So it's sort of just a cost of every single head that we have. We add that little parking cost to the employees, make it virtually free or just a nominal few dollars a week, just so people participate or choose between the bus pass or parking. But buses have to be a big part of the solution as well. I think we overlook the buses, which is kind of tied into your trolley thing too. But buses definitely are a solution, and if the bus routes get cut back, then that's going to hurt. So I think we have to approach parking and busing at the same time.
Charlie?
David, we have to take everything into perspective. In Boston, we have 3,400 people and 150 parking spaces. And if you park in Boston, it's $30 for an hour, if you're lucky to get a spot. But yet people take public transportation. There's a lot of parking in Worcester. I believe I'm not speaking for you, Tim, but the new garage at the Union Station has plenty of parking there. As I mentioned, the blue garage, but people don't want to walk. Well, if this is the second largest city in New England, right, or Massachusetts, the second largest city in Massachusetts, we have to, take it with a grain of salt. We priced out a parking garage. It's $37,000 to build a parking space. So if somebody does build a parking space, it isn't going to be free, and it's not going to be cheap. I believe now the going rate is $109 a month to park in one of the city garages if you want a monthly pass. And the Longwood Avenue in Boston area is $400 a month, under the Boston Common if you want to get a monthly pass. So, there's no simple solution, but I think, we have to take everything into perspective.
One of the programs I'd like to add is one of the programs at Springfield, and I hate to always refer back to Springfield, but I think it's a good initiative, is they're coming out with free after 5. So all the city lots are going to be offering free parking after 5 p.m. So it's an inducement to get people from the suburbs to come downtown, and parking will not impede that process.
Dick Kennedy?
Paul, what are you doing about tax policy in Springfield? Commercial, industrial versus residential?
I'm sorry, you're just too far away. You need to...
I was supposed to repeat those. The question is, what are you doing in Springfield about tax policy and the
well, that's a battle that our chamber deals with every year. And our chamber has works with the city leaders to try to keep the tax rate as low as possible. I believe Springfield's is $37 a thousand, and Worcester's $29, if I'm not mistaken. Well,
37.
37 in Springfield and 26 in Worcester. Excuse me. It's a challenge. We do have a two-tier pricing structure between commercial and residential. There is always that debate on whether or not we should close the gap between the two, and there's pros and cons to both of those issues.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, Barbara, Councilor Halloran.
I was trying to figure out what the poundage of that gorilla that's in the room, but it's
I've lost a little weight.
Yeah, looking good. It's City Square. which hasn't been discussed at this meeting, and I wondered if the panel had any comment on the importance of that project going forward, and perhaps Mr. McCarthy could talk on the likelihood of it going forward. And then the other thing I just want to mention is, you know, the City Council is on the verge of making a decision to support or not support the city manager's plan to privatize, or at least through long-term lease, of our parking garages and parking meters. So that's a topic that the businesses feel very strongly about and can come up with a united voice of some sort. Now's the time for us to hear that discussion. So I encourage people to weigh in on that.
So City Square, which has not been discussed at this point, and parking again.
Well, I think just to kick off the City Square project, without it, all these good ideas are just not going to mushroom, because I think when we were the most successful in downtown Worcester, and I've been working there for 40 years, it's when we had the Worcester Center. You know, we had that traffic, we had that foot traffic that I was alluding to earlier. People could go to the Worcester Common, and the traffic flow between the Worcester Center and Main Street was vibrant and very exciting. City Square has to be a number one priority, and I think those who are working on it have to be responsible to get their fair share done. I think that it's a difficult economy, but we're all taking risks, and I think that it is absolutely a top need.
Charlie?
David, you know, we also have to look at the economy right now. It's all public in the newspapers. Harvard is cutting back 10% right across the board. They've stopped all building projects. They're contemplating layoffs. Boston University has had a cut across the board. They're laying people off. They're not filling positions. They've stopped all projects. Boston College is 2.5% across the board. They've stopped all, future hiring and cutting back. They've even canceled their Christmas party, if you can believe that. And the Joslin, at the end of Longwood Avenue, next to the Joslin Clinic, there were 3 developers that were going to build a office research building, and that's, the high rent district there, and they, backed out, and the latest developer last week backed out. And so you have a big hole in the ground. It's just standing still. So, we have to be realistic in today's economy, and we're in a depression. Is somebody really going to come downtown Worcester and spend $600 million and save Worcester? So I know the city manager and the city administration are on top of it, and I think we're going to have some information before the first of the year, from what I hear.
Tim, I think you got the toughest part of that question.
Yeah. I guess I would start with City Square is clearly an important project, and it is a potential game changer in the downtown. However, I'd also point out it's one arrow on all of these arrows. It is not defining development in Worcester as a whole. There's still investment going on. There's still people cleaning up their buildings, opening up new shops, catering to the market that they see out there. But it is an important one. The administration has gone through a lot of work trying to make this project work so that it works both for the private development side as well as the public investment side. And the key to that is making sure that the public dollars that go in, of which there's about $96 million between city and state funding sources, that those dollars are protected, and that the return on investment is guaranteed. So the structure has been that the public dollars will only go forward when the appropriate tenancy is hit, that will guarantee the tax revenues are generated that pay for the bonds drawn by the public side to get the project moving. One of the things that's been done is the council recently approved, probably about 6 months ago, an amendment to the original district improvement financing agreement that changed the project a bit to allow for a lower cost alternative to go forward first, so that the whole project could get the momentum of starting up and moving forward. Under that change, there needs to be about 135,000 square feet of development. We're working with a number of tenants to try to identify who could start out, who will be the leader to take up enough square footage to move that project forward, that portion. Building H. We believe we're very close on a couple discussions. We're very hopeful, as stated, that in the beginning of the new year, there will be an announcement and we can see some real change.
Even though I'm the moderator, since I've gotten a little ink on this issue in the last few weeks, I should perhaps not duck this. From the WBDC perspective, we're very much rooting for City Square and have been a fan and an advocate from day one, and in fact, frankly, have pushed projects away from Gateway in order to get them to consider City Square, because we recognize the importance of the downtown area coming back. So we are on board and will be the first to cheer, not if they succeed, but when they succeed, because we know they will. That having been said, I think it's important to focus on what Tim just said. Worcester has had a history historically of putting all our eggs in one economic development basket. We built the Centrum, now the DCU Center, and we sat back and said, we did it, we did one, and then nothing else happened. So we have to be working on a number of fronts at the same time, and I think that that's important.
David, if I could just frame the parking issue.
Yep.
As the city manager presented to council, it's his hope to raise, and who knows what the number is, $40 million is one of the numbers that's being,
yeah.
And to use that, reinvest that money
in
for streets and sidewalks, which was part of this curb appeal report survey of the, and also to come up with a lump sum of money that could be used to spur additional economic development, whether it be by dealing with the tax rate or some incentives for business to locate here. So it's, but that would, and the funding would largely come from parking garages and parking meters in terms of giving 99-year leases on that. So it's competing priorities, I guess. And so the business community, and particularly the downtown business community, opinion, we need to hear that.
Sure.
We need to hear that.
Any further comment on that?
I think you're right, Bob.
Roberta?
Yeah, I'd like to come back to the question that the point that you raised about, Paul, about the business improvement district. As I understand it, the law in Massachusetts to establish a business improvement district is different from all the other states that we know of that have business improvement districts. That is, once the businesses come together and decide that they want to do this, which means that they're going to pay extra money in this particular area for security purposes, beautification, and so on, that once they've agreed to that, within a certain period of time, if a business wants to pull out, they can. So you end up with a situation of free riders. They're still going to benefit from it. And when we looked at this, we saw that what happened is in Massachusetts, we only have about 3 of them now in the entire state, although the law has been on the books for a number of years. Whereas you look at New York City, and they've got something like 80, 90, 100 of them, because there isn't this free rider clause. The other issue with the business improvement district, your businesses are paying 37. I mean, I thought ours was high, and I knew that yours was higher. And we're paying, you know, next year it's going to be even higher. Was it 29, 28, something? So you're already saying to the businesses, you're loading, you know, you're burdening them with more of the tax burden, and at the same time, pay us, give more into this, so that we can have this beautification, which a lot of people would say, why isn't the city responsible for that with the taxes that we're paying to the city? So I wonder if you could address that issue about
address the first issue. The opt-out option, if you will, that you're speaking about is, I believe, only available during the first 30 days of the implementation of the bid. If you don't have a campaign to get everybody to sign up in advance, you'll probably have a substantial amount of people opting out. However, if the chamber and other organizations in downtown do a good job of trying to get all businesses to sign up in advance, I think you'll get good participation. I believe in Springfield we have about 90% participation level in order for all businesses in the district. The opt-out option also is in play when the building is transferred from one ownership to another. We've lost some people over the years, the members of the bid, because of the opt-out option. I agree with you that that is a negative with bids in Massachusetts as opposed to other states, but that's the way the bid was originally designed, and I don't know what it would do, what you need to do in order to curtail that or change the way a bid is formed.
State law.
I agree, but I don't know what the process is, quite honestly.
And
the second issue that you're addressing is, you know, taxes are expensive for all businesses, but in my opinion, I don't think you can afford not to do it. I think that the bid enhances downtown tremendously. One of the programs that the Springfield bid does is they have a concert series on Thursday nights where they hire a band on Thursday nights in a park in downtown Springfield. They attract about 6,000 people every single Thursday night from, I think it's 17 weeks during the summer months. 6,000 people come to downtown Springfield to hear a band play. That's a, I think the budget on that is somewhere in the neighborhood of around $20,000, because, you know, there's sponsorships in there, and there's also some revenue that comes in from some of the purveyors that deal with this. But it's a huge issue of bringing people from outside the surrounding communities into downtown Springfield. Again, averaging 6,000 attendees per night for 17 nights in the summer months is great. All of the restaurants that surround this area where the concert series is flourishes, not only before the concert but after the concert. And again, it happens on a Thursday night. It doesn't happen on a Saturday night when the restaurants don't really need the business. Thursday night is not their peak night, but certainly is not an off-peak night. So I don't think you can afford not to do it. I think your city streets need improvement. I think the perception of crime is greatly reduced by having guides on the city streets on major events. And there's a cost for it, no question. And the reason that New York City has 100 of these is because they're so successful. And we can come up with numerous other ideas for bids in cities like Worcester that have been successful. So I'm a big proponent of it. I think Worcester should have one, and I think it's been proven successful in Springfield for years.
Tim, do you want to talk about the alternative that you're going to propose, or is that still under wraps?
Still in the works.
Okay.
I will point out, though, too, in recognizing that a bid is often difficult in Massachusetts, there are alternatives, which are things like the Shrewsbury Street Merchants Association, which is a voluntary coordination of business marketing efforts, cleanup efforts. So, you know, businesses that want to get together and try to focus on an area, improve that area, there are vehicles for doing so outside of an official governmental bid.
It's almost 10 o'clock, and I want to be fair to folks, although it might have gotten worse and you can't leave, in which case we will stay and answer questions for the rest of the morning and provide some business for Paul and his son. Okay, we'll take one last one.
A couple of minutes for me to talk about transportation.
Sure.
I'm just going to stand over here so
that's fine.
People can hear. I'm the only transportation person in Worcester, apparently. I've asked City Hall to have a transportation panel because every major city thrives because of good transportation, public transportation. Worcester, of course, is dying because of that. So I'm sorry, Mr. Pignelli, I think your idea is the worst idea I've ever heard. What I want to do is get rid of cars. I want cars to come to Worcester and, as several people have said, have a place to park. And then have a, trolley system to get you into the city and downtown. But every walkable city has to be successful by controlling cars in some way. New York, Chicago, even Los Angeles, which does have a good bus system. Oregon pays for downtown transportation. In the inner part, I've never been there, Portland, Oregon. Apparently businesses pay for that. So you encourage people to come downtown. The CMRPC has recently done 2 studies that are very interesting. One is for walkable cities, which Jonathan Church did, which I wish City Hall could show it. Barbara, why don't you work on that, have a whole thing of City Hall. And the other one is a little horrifying report about car crashes. So you can see all of this mapped out. And of course, they're just simply nothing but thick lines of car crashes. So I think we need to work on the opposite problem. We need to control parking. Also, every major city in America makes money from parking and fee violations. New York City alone makes $10 million from violations from FedEx alone. And Worcester talks about being poor, and yet they do nothing to raise money. I want every single parking place to be paid for, and then I want that to go towards public transportation. This is not just my idea. I mean, every city in America raises revenue from parking and traffic violations, and Worcester does nothing. So please, everybody consider this. We need to function as a major walkable city. And for the environment, and certainly the economic crisis, we don't need to have any free parking. Please, thank you.
I'm going to give you the last word. You may have actually, and I know this wasn't your intent, you might have explained to us why DHL went bankrupt. It could have been it could have been the city of New York putting them in that. As a person who's studied transportation, playing points well taken. My only caution again is that we have to be bold, we have to be optimistic, we have every right to do that in a city like Worcester, because I think we're looking at great things. We have to be careful to plan proportionally for who we are and what we are if we can become that. And I don't think the template is New York or Los Angeles, frankly, and I think we have to be sensitive to that. But your view of transportation will become the future if we fill in the stuff in the middle with the right types of uses and make the city vibrant enough to demand that. I'm going to make that the last word. Thank you all for coming. Safe travels. Keep focused on downtown. It is the most important economic development task for the city and the region ahead.